All right, so we're getting a couple of new scenes here tonight from Dallas Jenkins on the live stream. I'm watching it live. It's still going on right now, but he just released the first scene, which I was not expecting for it to be this. This is really intense. It's a bout between Shmuel and Yusuf. So let's jump in and watch this scene, and then I'll break it down right after that. Here we go.
Zebediah, if we can find the humility to lay aside our differences during this significant moment, I think we can both soberly admit the attitudes of our congregations are no longer directed by us.
I have cause enough to lay blame at the feet of Hillel sympathizers.
To what end? We have a common problem. Jesus the Nazarene operates entirely outside our jurisdiction, dismissive of tradition and precedent. He pushes the people's attitudes toward an uncharted realm of thought, alien to both our interpretations of Torah. The time for unity is now.
Yes.
I hereby motion to open the floor for proposals that can be agreed upon and presented to the high priest for immediate authorization.
I have documented Jesus' actions, teachings, and rumors of signs longer than anyone.
Objection. I have witnessed as much as Shmuel. We met him for the first time at the same day in Capernaum.
Sustained.
I said documented, not merely witnessed. And what have you done about it?
Actionable proposals, gentlemen.
The matter of the ghost of Bethany. The preposterous notion that Jesus the Nazarene called forth from the tomb a man 4 days dead and decaying, raised to life. The witnesses are few, but vocal.
What is so odious to you about the resurrection? What affront does this present to God's law? Torah only requires 2 or 3 male witnesses of sound mind and body.
Once again, you misunderstand me, Rabbi. I myself have witnessed his signs, most of them harmless. But such wonders also cloud people's judgment and may be part of his strategy to distract for his true purpose. That is what has ultimately led to this emergency meeting.
Why wasn't the meeting called immediately upon learning of the resurrection? Maybe something has happened to cloud people's judgment.
The rumor now has a stranglehold on the people who are convinced he is the anointed one.
If they believe he can raise the dead, why wouldn't they assume he is Messiah?
Precisely. People believe Lazarus died and was resurrected by Jesus. In reality, it was an elaborately constructed hoax.
Lazarus' death certificate was registered.
The man hid in a tomb until his childhood friend called for him to emerge.
Registered with the city of Bethany's municipal coroner, signed by a notary.
Who's to say the coroner wasn't part of the hoax?
Me.
A shock to no one, Yusuf. Tragically, Jesus has now forced us into a situation where to protect our people, we must consider drastic measures. If the people are following a man falsely claiming he raised Lazarus from death, we make sure he's dead.
Now the issue is being addressed.
You're suggesting murder, Shmuel?
I have always taken seriously the lives of our own, and I would never suggest such an act without extreme cause. But from the 3rd book of Moses, whoever blasphemes the name of the Lord shall surely be put to death. All the congregation shall stone him.
This goes too far, Shmuel. Lazarus is a faithful Jew.
It is written in the 2nd book of Moses, you shall keep the Sabbath, for it is holy for you. Everyone who profanes it shall be put to death. Whoever does any work on it, that soul shall be cut off from his people.
Jesus is the one accused of these violations, not Lazarus.
But Jesus has committed these infractions, and the only reason you're not holding him accountable is because you're entranced with the idea he has divine powers to raise the dead.
Let's put it to a vote. Scribes, ready the ballots.
Yes, I agree, let's vote. Who believes in Holy Scripture and who believes in a Nazarene? Right, stop.
Woo! Oh man, that was so good. Let me back it up. We're gonna go back through it again. There are so many little things in here that are huge within this scene. Such good moments throughout this for sure. All right, let's go back through. there's some biblical things I want to bring up, but specifically there's a lot of cultural things that are going on here that are very, very cool. And I'm sure a lot of these things are going to get missed. So I wanted to jump in and talk about these ones here. So let's go back through, and I'm going to pause it all throughout here to kind of talk about these things.
Zebediah.
First things first, we got Zebediah over here. Here's the main players that we're seeing here. We're seeing Zebediah, Shimon, Shmuel, Yusuf, and then of course the Sadducees as well, Gadara, who was a main player in season 4 as well. I'll kind of go over who these people are. Zebediah is a Pharisee, so you have to remember within the Sanhedrin here, there are 72 members of the Sanhedrin, and a lot of them are Pharisees and some of them are Sadducees. The Sadducees are kind of the elite class. They believe in different things. For example, they don't believe in resurrection at all. They don't believe in the rest of the books of the Bible. They only talk about the Pentateuch, which is the first 5 books. So Zebediah and Shmuel are both Pharisees. On the other side of the aisle, we're going to see Gadara, who is a Sadducee. And then as well, we're seeing Shimon, who is a really important character here. We're going to get to in just a second.
If we can find the humility to lay aside our differences during this significant moment, I think we can both soberly admit the attitudes of our congregations are no longer directed by us.
I have cause enough to lay blame at the feet of Hillel's sympathizers.
To what end?
So Zebediah does a couple of different things there as he says that, talking about Hillel sympathizers. When he talks about Hillel sympathizers, he is placing himself in the camp of being a follower of Shammai. So someone that is a little bit more strict with the law. Hillel is someone who is a little bit more loose with the law, which is why Zebediah is blaming Hillel and the followers of Hillel for Jesus being able to do what he's doing. They've kind of loosened the law enough for Jesus to have the freedom to go and flip these tables without consequence, to lead these different people without consequence, and to teach what he's teaching without consequence in their eyes. Now, Shammai here, which is the guy that's talking at the podium, let me get back to him real fast.
To what end? We have a common problem. Jesus the Nazarene.
Right here, this is Shimon. So Shimon is the Nasi, or the president of the Sanhedrin, the Great Sanhedrin, during the time of Jesus. They had a little bit of trouble with this early on in the series with The Chosen between Gamaliel and Shimon, but Shimon is the president during the time of Jesus, during this time. So he's the one that's kind of supposed to be leading a lot of these sessions. We haven't really seen him do that very much in the past. A lot of times in the past, it's been Gadara, or some of the other people in Caiaphas that have led these sessions here. But obviously, Shimon is kind of taking that place here, and he is the one that is formally kind of getting all of these things out, making sure the talking points are known so that they can bring it to Caiaphas and have a formal kind of decision made there. Now, later on, obviously, at the very end of this clip, we see them voting and things like that, but Shimon is a very important character. The reason why we know that this is Shimon is because in season 4, Caiaphas actually calls him out for being Shimon. He says his name, but we never really get a formal introduction to him. Why is Shimon important besides being the president? He is the son of Hillel. So he's the son of one of the biggest schools in Judaism. He's a very important person. His father Hillel was the president before him. Then he becomes the president. And then Gamaliel, his son, becomes a really prominent figure later on, including the one who teaches Paul. So this is all a really, really important family that we're seeing here, although we haven't seen much of it in The Chosen so far. So let's continue on.
Operates entirely outside our jurisdiction, dismissive of tradition and precedent. He pushes the people's attitudes toward an uncharted realm of thought, alien to both our interpretations of Torah.
So Shimon is saying there, no, Zebediah, it's not my school of thought that is the problem here. We're not the ones that are celebrating what Jesus is doing. In fact, we're against it as well. And I would hope that we could agree on this, that we could come to a consensus here. Now, we see Yanni in the background of this shot as well. We don't really hear him at all in this scene, but it's good that he's here. We do know that he is not part of the Great Sanhedrin, so I wonder why he's here, other than like just being kind of there and around when things happen, and being a friend of Shmuel and all that kind of stuff. But we don't really see him give a lot of input because he's not part of the Great Sanhedrin, as we found out in season 4. Hey, real quick, if you're enjoying this content and you want to see us making more stuff just like this, then the best way to support us is through snipesupport.com. You can pledge $5, $10, or $25 a month in order to help us to continue making content just like this, regardless of how YouTube treats us or how many people they send it out to. It really, really helps. And on top of that, you actually get to see a lot of our content early, or even extra content that is never going to be on YouTube. There's a lot of stuff over there that is just for our Patreon people, including full live streams that are more than just what you're seeing here on YouTube. So if you're interested in that, we'd love to have you over there. And of course, yeah, let's continue on with the video.
The time for unity is now.
Yes.
I hereby motion to open the floor for proposals that can be agreed upon and presented to the high priest for immediate authorization.
So they're trying to figure out a plan to give to Caiaphas so that they can move forward with this. And this is where Shmuel really steps up.
I have documented Jesus' actions, teachings, and rumors of signs longer than anyone.
Objection. I have witnessed as much as Shmuel. We met him for the first time at the same day in Capernaum.
Sustained.
I said documented, not merely witnessed. And what have you done about it?
Actionable proposals.
So you can see here the beginning of the fight between Shmuel and Yusuf starts to come up. Shimon even kind of settling them down, saying, hey, stop attacking each other. Let's come up with an actual proposal to go to Caiaphas so that we can actually get this done, figure out what we need to do. Yusuf is trying to defend Jesus in a lot of ways, saying that, you know, hey, there could be other things going on here. There could be reasons why people are following him in this way. And here is really where Shmuel begins to break bad. And we're going to see that later on in this scene.
Gentlemen.
The matter of the ghost of Bethany.
The ghost of Bethany, of course, is a nickname given to Lazarus from the last season. The first person that told us about this nickname was actually Pilate during Pilate's supper with Herod and Herodias and Joanna and Chusa. And so we see him talking about the ghost of Bethany, which is Lazarus.
The preposterous notion that Jesus the Nazarene called forth from the tomb a man 4 days dead and decaying, raised to life.
Why is 4 days important? We talked about this during season 4. 4 days is important because that's when they believe that the soul would have left the body already. The body would have been decaying and it would have been absolutely dead. There's no question in anybody's mind that this person is dead. So now he has to come up with ideas of how was Lazarus in the tomb for 4 days and yet he's not dead? What kind of trickery is going on here if we don't believe Jesus, right?
The witnesses are few, but vocal.
What is so odious to you about the resurrection? What affront does this present to God's law? Torah only requires 2 or 3 male witnesses of sound mind and body.
Once again, you missed.
And again, if we go back to season 4, we know that there were at least 100 witnesses in the show, and there's many dozens of witnesses in the scriptures as well that would have seen this happen. They saw it happen live in front of them. There are people that have been there all week, sitting Shiva with the family of Lazarus, with the sisters, Mary and Martha, and then they all go and follow them to the tomb, and they all see as Lazarus is raised. So it's not just this random rumor that's going around. It's verified by many people. So Yusuf pointing that out here is really key, because it's showing that Shmuel, while he says that he's following the law, is not truthfully following the scriptures here.
Misunderstand me, Rabbi. I myself have witnessed his signs, most of them harmless. But such wonders also cloud people's judgment and may be part of his strategy to distract for his true purpose. That is what has ultimately led to this emergency meeting.
Why wasn't the meeting called immediately upon learning of the resurrection?
Yeah, if this is about Lazarus, why not call the meeting whenever the resurrection actually happened, which was, several days ago at this point in the story? So why didn't we do that then? Why are we doing it now? Doesn't make sense.
Maybe something has happened to cloud people's judgment.
The rumor now has a stranglehold on the people who are convinced he is the anointed one.
Which is exactly what happens in scripture. We see that because of Lazarus' raising, there are a ton of people that begin to follow Jesus because it is undeniable who he is. It's undeniable that he is the Messiah.
If they believe he can raise the dead, why wouldn't they assume he is Messiah?
Precisely.
100%.
People believe Lazarus died and was resurrected by Jesus. In reality, it was an elaborately constructed hoax.
So Shmuel, again, is coming up with these different things here of obviously something else must have happened. Now remember, Shmuel saw Lazarus after he was raised. He had heard the stories. He had heard the rumors already. He saw Lazarus face to face. And yet now he's trying to make sense of it because it doesn't make any sense to him.
Lazarus' death certificate was registered.
The man hid in a tomb until his childhood friend called for him to be
Registered
murdered.
with the city of Bethany's municipal coroner, signed by a notary.
Who's to
So the only person that's bringing up fact here is Yusuf. He's saying, no, his death certificate was signed by a notary. It was registered with the coroner. The systems that we go through have already verified that he was dead 4 days before he was raised. So this is the truth. It's legally binding, these things, right? But Shmuel doesn't care about any of that because his emotions and his passion and his sense for Jesus being evil is kind of leading him through this whole process here.
say the coroner wasn't part of the hoax?
Me.
A shock to no one, Yusuf.
Of course you'd be on Jesus' side, Yusuf, of course. But he's trying to stand up for him and saying, no, obviously I'm seeing these things. We've said these things. We've verified these things. How does Yusuf know that the documents were notarized and that there was people that actually looked at Lazarus' dead body? He must have done research into it, right? In order to verify it for himself as well, which is something that every Pharisee would have wanted to do during that time to prove, yes, this is true, or no, this is false. And so it's really interesting here that Shmuel is shutting down those things when those are straight up facts.
Logically, Jesus has now forced us into a situation where to protect our people, we must consider drastic measures. If the people are following a man falsely claiming he raised Lazarus from death, we make sure he's dead.
This is where Shmuel breaks bad. So he's saying that he is calling for the death of Lazarus here, okay? He is saying because people are so confused and they're so wrapped up in Lazarus being dead and then raised, we have to make sure that Lazarus is dead then. This seems like it's way out of left field and that Chosen is going like way off, but actually this is strictly biblical here. When the large crowd of the Jews learned, this is John chapter 12, by the way, that Jesus was there, they came out not only on account of him, but also to see Lazarus, because Lazarus had been such a big name, right? The word had spread that Lazarus was gaining notoriety. Whom he had raised from the dead. So the chief priests made plans to put Lazarus to death as well, because on account of him, many Jews were going away and believing in Jesus. What does that mean? They're going away. They're going away from the traditional beliefs of Judaism and going into believing that Jesus is the Messiah, believing that he is the guy, right? Now, this in scripture actually happens before the triumphal entry and after, obviously, the raising of Lazarus, which is in John chapter 11. But this is such a huge thing here that we're seeing, that people are surrounding him, and already the chief priests are making plans to kill Lazarus here, not only to kill Jesus, which happens in John chapter 11. At the very end of John chapter 11, we get this section here where the plot to kill Jesus begins, which we saw in season 4. So now in season 5, we're beginning to see the plot to kill Lazarus, which is crazy to see. And it's so crazy that Shmuel is the one that brings it up here. Knowing how logical he is, knowing how he's followed the law the whole series so far, and now he's breaking bad. And you're going to see him misuse scripture all throughout this section here, which is really interesting to see. Something that we don't often get from Shmuel for sure.
Now the issue is being addressed.
You're suggesting murder, Shmuel?
I have always taken seriously the lives of our own, and I would never suggest such an act without extreme cause. But from the 3rd book of Moses, whoever blasphemes the name of the Lord shall surely be put to death. All the congregation shall stone him.
This goes too far, Shmuel. Lazarus is a faithful Jew.
So even Zebediah here, who is on Shmuel's side, he's saying, dude, I don't know about that, dude. Like, that's a bit too far. That's a bit crazy. The Jews would have really, really been very careful with stoning someone like this or executing someone like this. It would have been a very big rarity. And the fact that they planned to kill Jesus and Lazarus in scripture shows that they were really riled up during this time.
It is written in the 2nd book of Moses, you shall keep the Sabbath, for it is holy for you. Everyone who profanes it shall be put to death. Whoever does any work on it, that soul shall be cut off from his people.
Jesus is the one accused of these violations, not Lazarus.
But Jesus...
So here, Yusuf points out a really big point. None of what you're saying applies to Lazarus at all. You've never seen Lazarus break any of these commands. Even Zebediah is saying that he's a following, like he's a Jewish person. He's a Jewish man that is righteous in many ways, and known in the community by a lot of people. And he's never done any of those things. He's never done anything wrong on the Sabbath. He's never blasphemed God. these things are being thrown at Jesus, right? But never to Lazarus. So why would you pull him into this?
Has committed these infractions, and the only reason you're not holding him accountable is because you're entranced with the idea he has divine powers to raise the dead.
So he's saying we need to get rid of Lazarus because this will get you out of your mind prison of, oh, Jesus can't do anything wrong because he's raised someone from the dead, so that must make him the Messiah. If we can get rid of that, then you'll fully understand who Jesus actually is, right? Which is such crazy thinking. Like, you can see Shmuel is unraveling here. Similarly to Quintus in last season, as Quintus is losing control and everything's falling apart, you're seeing as Shmuel is in a similar cadence. I love the writing here, and I'm really interested to see. He said this is somewhere in episodes 1 through 4. I would think this is probably episode 4, if I were to guess. And so obviously there's things that happened up to this point. He mentioned earlier on that this is after Jesus had flipped the tables. It's after Matthew chapter 23, where he's again shouting at them and saying, you scribes and you Pharisees, you hypocrites, you blind guides, you clean the outside of the tomb, but the inside is disgusting, right? You whitewashed tombs, right? He talks about all that stuff in Matthew chapter 23. And so now we're seeing the rebuttal to those things. In the behind the scenes that we've been looking at all year as well, we have a moment where Shmuel runs out and he just screams, he is not the Messiah. He is not the Messiah. And he's just yelling at this group of people, talking to the different Pharisees and people that are around him. And so he is really aggravated at this point. He has turned 180 where he was in the beginning of season 4 since the finale of season 4. So it's a really big change here for him.
Let's put it to a vote. Scribes, ready the ballots.
Yes, I agree, let's vote. Who believes in Holy Scripture and who believes in a Nazarene?
So again, this is a false dichotomy that he's raising. Who believes in Holy Scripture and who believes in the Nazarene? This is a huge false dichotomy because what Shmuel's saying is not the truth of Scripture. It's just not. And so he is misusing Scripture and manipulating the group with emotions and passion, trying to get those that are in the Sadducee persuasion and some of the others to vote alongside of him, which we see as they begin to vote, most of those votes are going yes. And we know from Scripture that the majority will be yes to kill Lazarus here.
Right, stop.
So each of them is taking stones here. And then they're voting for what they are choosing here, yes or no, basically. So crazy, so crazy. Such a great scene there, such a great moment. So many little unique cultural, historical, biblical things in there. I cannot wait to see more of this season. Let me know your thoughts are on the comments down below. And of course, we'll see you guys on the next one. Peace.